So, my name is Patty LaTaille. I'm from the United States. I am from the state called Colorado, and we are not only known for our mountains and ice and snow, but we are also known for being the most progressive state in the states in restorative justice. Okay, talking about restorative justice. Just to summarize it real quickly, it is a way to humanize the justice system. It is a process in which we work with the individuals involved in conflict or crime, and we bring them together in a safe, supported environment together with their family members, and we actually have the victim and the offender, okay, which labels I don't really agree with, because I'd rather say the person harmed and the person who did the harm. Unfortunately, our justice system in the States is very much based on punishment, and so they refer to the individuals as the offender and the victims. So when we bring them together in what's called a restorative circle or a victim-offender dialogue, transformational energy, forgiveness, healing, all happens within a 2.5 to 3 hour circle. And it's really actually, if you ever have the opportunity to attend a circle, please do as a community member, because it is really phenomenal what can happen when you allow individuals to see each other as human beings, and also to allow that level of compassion to take effect within a circle. So while this is up, let's go forward. So restorative justice, it's kind of it is an approach. Other than just working with victims and offenders, we actually have an entire philosophy of life, an entire approach to dealing with crime and conflict, and that is actually utilized within the school systems, within the justice system, particularly the juvenile justice system. And then it's also used in community conflict or events, some trauma related, that the ability to bring the people together who were engaged and involved can make a positive difference. Okay? And we also refer to this as humanizing the justice system, and also creating a level of community connection and consciousness in repairing the harm. Okay, so I work for an organization. It's a nonprofit, an independent nonprofit, and it's called Full Circle Restorative Justice. And all of you should have a handout. If you don't, there's more up here. It kind of gives you an overview of what RJ, Restorative Justice, is. It also talks about what our agency focuses on specifically, and you'll notice up there that we focus on repairing the harm processes caused by criminal behavior, or as we say with in the juvenile system, caused by poor choices. You know, like young people may not make the best choices at times because they don't have the wisdom and the experience that our elders have. So we also have joined up to work with therapy dogs. Is anyone here familiar with the work of therapy dogs? Therapy dogs, no? Okay, so, yes, okay. So we work very closely with individuals and canines that have been trained to support and help human beings in difficult time periods. They have been certified, and they come as a team, as the handler and as a therapy dog, and they actually help support both the victim as well as the offender and the individuals who are engaged in a restorative circle or a victim-offender dialogue. When you bring a dog into the room, it reduces tension and anxiety and really helps people kind of open up and feel safer and more connected. So we'll talk a little bit more about that quickly. These are our amazing volunteers in the back there. We are a volunteer-based organization, so most of the majority of work that we do, we have 3 part-time staff members, and the rest is volunteer work, and the community really steps up. So our programs Victim offender conferences, as I mentioned. The Paws for Peace is our therapy dog program. We also teach nonviolent communication, or NVC, in the schools. That ties into empathy education as well. And we do peer mediation, so we train the young people to be able to mediate their own conflicts with a peer, with a friend, instead of having to go to the principal or the vice principal or the teachers. We try and have them resolve it within, and to kind of hold each other accountable. Okay, most of our cases are juveniles, and you're looking at like vandalism, theft. There's been a big increase in bullying, and that's within the school system and referrals through the schools. Okay, so our goal is to divert the youth. So if they do get in trouble, if they go through the traditional justice system, we're looking at a reoffense rate, or as we call it, recidivism rate, of about 8 out of 10 young people, so 80% will reoffend within the first 6 months to a year. Which, when I heard that statistic, I was just like, that is unacceptable, okay? So enter into restorative justice. You put people, individuals involved in this situation into a circle together. You have a connection between each of the individuals, and particularly including the victim and the offender, and you have a recidivism rate or a reoffense rate that's been lowered between 1 to 3 kids or youth out of 10, so about 10 to 30%. Dramatic difference. They've measured it. It's scientifically proven, evidence-based process. We know it works. And we've been doing this restorative justice in Colorado, in this town, the mountain town where I live. We've had this in place since 2006. So. Interesting restorative practices. So a traditional approach would be that school rules are broken. And we look at it like RJ people, it's like people in relationships are harmed, okay? And then justice focuses on establishing guilt, and we say, no. Justice identifies needs and responsibilities, because we're talking about relationships that have been broken. So accountability equals punishment? No, we say accountability understands the impact and how to repair the harm. There's the empathy piece that's wrapped around this. Justice is directed at the offender, and the victim is ignored. I will tell you for a fact that is true. The victim does not have a voice in the traditional justice system, but what we do is include the victim, and we have them actually as part of the process from day one. And we are a victim-centered program, so we meet the needs of the victim and their scheduling and whatever types of repairing the harm that are reasonable and appropriate. We will work with the victim to do that. So it's not based on the offender and punishment. And so the offender is responsible for harmful behavior, but we also give them an opportunity, and this is big, because if any one of you has done any research or has listened to Brene Brown on TED Talks talk about shame, it's like if you shame a person, you keep them in this prison or this cage of shame that they can't get out of, and restorative justice gives them the key to get out of that. It gives them a process where they say, okay, yes, I made a mistake, yeah, I screwed up, I hurt somebody, but you know what, I made it right. I did what I needed to do, and I repaired the harm, I paid the restitution, I paid for the broken window, I returned the objects that I stole, I did community service, 20 hours of community service, and made a difference in our community. So they can move past that harm and feel like, I'm a good person still. And that is super important. Real quick, system of justice that we have traditionally, it's such a paradigm shift, everyone. It's like, what laws have been broken? Who did it? And what do they deserve? We say, who has been hurt? Like, what's really going on? And what are their needs? Victim focused. Whose obligations are these? That's the victim. In the victim and offender case, it would be the offender's responsibility to meet the needs of the victim, and to acknowledge the impact that a crime or a conflict has on another individual. Like I mentioned, we go into the schools. We do our different programs in that. We've got a lot of very positive feedback, and suspensions have been lowered, and expulsions have been lowered. The expulsion rate has been lowered as well. So we know that RJ works appropriately within the school system as well. So again, peer mediation that we do that shared language, nonviolent communication, and if anybody needs a copy of this and wants more, because I'm going to go through it really quick, like I said, please contact me. You'll have my information actually on the handouts. So we don't have time to go through this, but that's actually a really good video of showing how restorative justice works in a school environment and replacing punishment with talking circles. Okay. RJ, by the way, is really a very traditional approach in that it's a community justice approach to dealing with crime and conflict, and it started in Aboriginal days. I mean, it started with Native Americans in the United States. It started with the Maori tribe in New Zealand. And they did a very tribal justice approach to dealing with problems and conflicts within the tribe. And so this is based on kind of a tribal or community justice. So we acknowledge that relationships are central to building community. Our communities are safer now that we don't have angry, young, in this case, individuals who have broken the law to continue breaking the law. And we have communities that we have individuals who are willing to help these youth, mentor them, and then as a program, we actually monitor the agreements they come to, formal agreements they come to within the victim and the offender within the circle, and make sure that the individual who agreed to repair the harm, who's the offender, actually completes what their contract is. So they learn responsibility, change, growth, positive. Paws for Peace, like I mentioned, the therapy dogs, a little bit more about them. That's our logo for our program. I actually just completed a book and it's been published. It's called Paws for Peace, Enhancing Restorative Practices with Therapy Dogs. So we can talk more about that if you have any questions. The benefits of therapy dogs have been scientifically noted and tracked. So there's the physical parts of having the dog within a circle, and then the mental parts of it as well. And it's illustrative of the human-animal bond, and we're finding more and more research is being done in this arena to really show how connected to nature we are, as Louisa said earlier, how we're all together, and what dogs can do to help physically calm a person, because I have to tell you all that it is very, very anxiety producing and tense when you actually have a victim and offender sit down in the first moments and they have this stare down at each other across the circle. It's not only tense for everyone in the room, but for the facilitators. It was really hard to move past that initial, wow, this is heavy duty stuff. So we basically have some studies that have shown this, and it does really build a connection between people, and it just makes people feel safer and more comfortable. Overall benefits of RJ. This is important, the highest rate of victim satisfaction, because they're involved in the process and they're able to state what their needs are and get them met. Faster case resolution times. So if it goes into traditional justice system, I don't know about how you are in your different countries, but it usually takes months before the case will actually show up in court. So everyone, the victims, the offenders, the family members, they've all been in this state of anxiety for months. And we do cases within a 30-day period. So RJ can be much quicker. Restitution, if they owe money, well, you know what, Mrs. Jones, like, her window was broken and now it's November, and believe me, it gets really cold in Colorado. I'm going to make sure that I pay her in time so she can get a new window, to be warm this winter. Okay. True accountability, yeah, I did this. There's no not guilty in restorative justice. You have to own what you did and say, yeah, I did it. What do I got to do to make it right? And they can make it right, because when they do what's listed in their repair contract, then they get reintegrated into community that understands and supports them and actually celebrates their accomplishment and, you know, really trying their best to make it right within the circle and the individuals, especially the victim, but also within our community. And that was the really quick version of this presentation, and I'm wondering if anybody has any questions.
I was wondering if you have what kind of I say crime, but it's, or what kind of crimes do, like, is there like a limit that you would say, I don't know.
That's a really good question. Like, so you can start out with like a kind of low-level crime, which may be like stealing a $2 candy bar or whatever from the local store. And we've done cases like that, but we've also done cases of involuntary manslaughter, but DWI cases, so driving while intoxicated. And so you can do the littler kind of cases, mostly juveniles, and then they move all the way up to, they've done ones with murder, they've done ones like DUI cases. Our state, Colorado, has statutory ruled against doing domestic violence and sexual assault, okay? The victim can ask for that, and if they feel comfortable to do that, to see the person who harmed them, we will do that. But it's very rare. Okay. And everyone must go through a very distinct process. Sexual assault cases. And then each of the participants have to go through a very stringent assessment process and meet criteria of like they're appropriate to do this work. And they can be anywhere from 6 months to 2 years.
And does this substitute case at court?
It sometimes does. That's our goal. If we can do that and work with the individuals before they get a record, we're trying to help them avoid a record and also help them to resolve it better and quicker with the victim involved. So yes, so we do get referrals that say it's adjudicated or deferred until they go through restorative justice, and if they complete that successfully, then there's no charges on their records, there's no sentence. So, thank you. Yes?
Are you planning to bring the concept to develop a circle in Portugal?
That's a very good question, Lisa. I would love to bring that. I'm not sure of the welcoming or the understanding and acknowledgement of this program you mentioned. They're starting to have...
Very, very early, because churches, contraceptive, they don't even talk much about it, but there are
but there's interest.
That they try
very little at this point. Yeah, there's initial resistance too, but
you already know, which is a good thing. So
okay.
Then the way we.
But it's not just by a minority.
Not
by a minority still. Not a lot of people talking about restorative circles in Portugal.
Okay. And maybe that's something that needs to happen.
Yeah.
Because that's really fundamentally creating peace within your communities. 2 minutes. Thank you.
Because if we go to the normal system of justice system, it's quite difficult for boys and girls that have some
record
behavior
right
out of the normal rules. And because if we go to the normal situation of justice, it can be absolutely devastating and can work the opposite on that.
Exactly.
It's
exactly.
Like if they go to prison, they don't have a good school of bad behavior. They have a high degree of bad behavior. So when they come out, so it must be, this is an alternative. This is something that I agree very much, and I applaud, because it's something that should be implemented all over.
Exactly.
This is a new shift, a new paradigm, how things should run.
Exactly.
For youth, because our system doesn't help.
I think in the end
There's
of the
no
day,
answers, there's no
even beyond-
gates for this.
Even beyond this, I think because in a way this for me, there's an underlying, you said is a whole paradigm shift, there's something that is really underlying the whole thing, which is this idea that you have in the community the resources necessary to deal with the problems that affect them, and in a way you just need is a better quality of dialogue and of really considering that justice is something in the making. It's not something like written on rocks, because it's situational, it's contextual, there's all sorts of things around there.
For each
I love
case.
that because that's kind of living process. It's not
Yes.
something that is like
Yes.
dead on words. It's, you build it while in relationship.
Exactly. Thank you, Nuno. I mean, that's exactly it. And each case has custom designed consequences. Instead of a rubber stamp of like the justice system is like, oh, you owe this much money, you're fined this, you do community service. It's like, no, 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 wait a minute. The victim wants to have coffee with this young person once a month to find out, how are you doing in school? Well, how are your grades? How many community service hours are you doing? You know, to like really have this human connection. Or they go and they volunteer together at the local humane society, and they are together and they build this reintegration into a community.